Thank you very much for inviting me. And in terms of the kind of the research education bit, currently, personally, I think that wherever it's beneficial, we should be dissolving those two elements totally into one thing, and I'm sure that most people kind of accept that. And I see the MOOC as one component of this process. I'm also aware, this will be full of caveats, that all of you will know an awful lot more about a lot of the bits that I'm going to be talking about, so please, be nice to me, but feedback and give me some suggestions. Anyway, this is the course. It's a 6-week course on Future Man. It launched, when did it launch? 2.5 weeks ago. And it's allegedly 2 hours a week. I completely got wrong. I think the amount of time that the amazing learners on the course are wanting to invest in not just going through the material, but commenting and interacting and looking at all the subsidiary materials. So when we rerun the course, a key concern will be how we kind of articulate the amount of time you could spend versus the amount of time you kind of have to spend in order to do the core stuff. But the overriding message, I think, I've just checked again, seems to be that even though there's a lot of stuff, people are really enjoying looking at the stuff, which is amazing. It is by far and away the most, I think, important and stimulating thing that I've ever done in my career. But partly, I think that's as a consequence of the fact that it feeds from a load of stuff that I've thought is important for a long while. So I am quite a multimedia geek. I'm interested in creating and curating multimedia resources. I have a kind of a profound interest in the construction of digital narrative and the communication of that increasingly through social methods, but for a long time, different aspects of hypermedia. The kind of subtext behind doing the one at Portus has been also this kind of intersection between artistic and scientific and humanities process, and also the intersection between physical learning and online learning. Okay, so to what extent can we encourage the kinds of learning that take place and the kinds of research that take place at the metaphorical trail's edge, and how can we deliver that in an online way? And to what extent does that have to be kind of a mimetic approach, or how can we do it analogically? How can we encourage that sense of being in a place and interacting physically whilst not actually having access to that material? So that's kind of underlain a lot of the stuff that we've been doing. We've done things in this space, or in this case in the Second Life space. Oh, God bless it. These aren't ours, that's from the Chalahoyok. I think that might be Chalahoyok, or it may be Capi Island. That might be a Capi Island, or it might be also the Roma space in Second Life. But we did some things with producing models of Portus and having an exhibition space in Second Life, so we could say it was meta, and getting people to turn on and off different periods of the site. So we tried that for a while. We've also been exploring different ways of bridging this kind of digital-physical divide, inevitably by using panoramas, but in this case also embedding things like laser scan data. This is one of the buildings that the system complex as part of the Imperial Palace at Portus. And this came about a project called Virtual Fieldwork, which was primarily a project about providing disabled access to archaeological contexts, and providing access to archaeological contexts for, to people who couldn't attend for any other reason. So we've been kind of repurposing some of the content from that. It also relates to work we're doing. All of this is in close collaboration with the Italian authorities who are administering Portus. And the kind of the closest collaboration is a virtual tour of the site, which we've been building collaboratively with them, and that over the coming months will become increasingly cross-referenced to the MOOC. Okay, and increasingly cross-reference to data as more and more of that appears. So we're bringing together all of this different stuff in ways that is not a portal. All right, so in ways that will allow it to fail gracefully, or not gracefully. It'll allow it to fail, but there'll still be, cool stuff to find. Another area that we've been pursuing for quite a long while is rich combinations of material in ways that combine the linear with a kind of a more non-linear approach. So in the first stages of Chronozoom, there's a tour that you can go and visit of Portus there, and that embeds things like AutoCAD data and videos and all that kind of stuff. So you can follow the linear tour, or you can zoom in and out of the timeline. This is an example from Rich Interactive Narratives, which is another Microsoft research project, which we used to show how you could provide a rich tour to a research data set. So it's an accompaniment to a published article about the geophysics from Portus, where you can provide a linear journey through it, or you can dive in and play with some of the data and so on. There's a nice example you can look at, and I'll share the slides obviously. And then this is a kind of a photosynth embedded in the Rich Interactive Narrative, so you can look around it from different perspectives and say increase this kind of sense of being part of the place. I am by far from being an expert at this. How dare I even contemplate using the terms? But my understanding and the way that we've structured these things has been that the Future Learn platform is providing a well-defined linear thread, a linear narrative thread that we've put a lot of thought into. It's a thread that goes chronologically, so each week moves us forward in time, and it also moves us down in scale. So week 1 is the whole Roman Empire, week 5 is a find, week 6 is what do we know about everything from the Roman Empire from a find, and what do we know about everything from the 1st century to the 6th century. Yeah, so week 6, which will also take place live on site, is about bringing all the stuff together. But then we've got the blog and a load of other stuff where we're trying to provide a more folksonomic environment. So that's kind of a map, a Bing map with data kind of fed into it. At the moment, Magic Hambo Paggy, who's our creative genius, is currently hacking some KML into there and also hacking the Geo RSS feed from Flickr. So we've kind of been presenting the learners each week with some more stuff, yet more stuff, but hopefully more ways of linking back into the platform. So we're providing very deliberately deep links back into FutureLearn, even though you need to log in. All right, so we're not worrying about the fact that you're going to get okay, you need to log into this. It's fine. Once you're on the blog and it's about the FutureLearn course, then maybe you should be kind of expecting that. So we're kind of cross-referencing material that's not in the platform, geospatially and temporally, using other kinds of methods. In terms of the kind of the footage, because the part of the kind of the FutureLearn approach is aimed at kind of as the quality. Okay, so that's quality in terms of the text and it all being correct, we hope. Although we've had some fascinating corrections in Latin that I totally fail to understand because I'm a Philistine. But thankfully there are people who have been responding to those and fixing everything as we go along. So that's been cool. But there's also quality in terms of the video assets that are used and the image assets. So the blog has enabled us to use some other kinds of footage. So it's enabling us to use footage that's been generated by the students filming on site. We've had students with wearable cameras. In week 6, we're going to have students with wearable cameras, students interviewing each other in order to answer questions that have been posed by the online students on FutureLearn. We're building on the shoulders of millions of giants, but it's cool. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. And there's a Portus Field School, so there are students who've paid to come over and excavate and survey on the site for 3 weeks. They're registered on the MOOC, or we haven't required them to, but we've strongly suggested. Our archaeology undergraduates and master's students who are attending on the project are also on the MOOC, so we've got this kind of community of people who are going to have a more or less tangible interaction with the place. In terms of this interaction between the physical, digital, there's kind of lots of arguments about kind of how this kind of how this distinction is more or less relevant in a kind of a smartphone world. But in terms of our data, we've tried to drop in kind of data bombs into the advanced steps within the MOOC, so that people can get these kinds of interactions. So this is a gigapan. The gigapan system allows you to create comments, so social comments, if you're registered on the platform. Right, you're not required to as part of the course, but if you wanted to, you could get yourself a gigapan account, you could annotate content, and we can create kind of rich additional material about some of our resources. In 2 weeks' time, we have reflectance transformation imaging, which is kind of a particular imaging approach we use to record some of our objects. We're going to put some of the RTIs online, and we're going to invite people to share annotations that they produce of those. Now, you know, more of the kind of the same thing, but so far what we've seen is that people are responding very, very favourably. This week is all about geophysics, and we've had a lot of comments like, oh my god, this is really hard to understand. Yeah, I agree. We should, you know, look at the text and look at how we've delivered it. But a lot of people, despite that, have gone through to the advanced step where we say, download this free piece of software, download this geophysics data from the site, produce your own interpretations and share them with us. So that's, again, pretty fun and cool and exciting. In terms of widening the community, I've got the point there. You know, this is not new. You know, Delicious, God knows how long Delicious has been around for, or long enough to change its name, so it's not .us anymore. And blogs and Vimeo. You know, more kind of recent things like Sphere, which is a spherical panorama viewer. But it's just so easy now, right? It's so easy to create the account, worry about the terms and conditions. That's probably another whole talk. But create the account and see what happens when you provide the content through that particular channel, and not worry if you know, not everyone is looking at it, and not worry if, you know, so how that changes their interaction with the overall content. Flickr has been really cool. So we happen to have loads and loads of photographs and videos. Loads of them have been on Flickr for a long while, but what we did before the MOOC was organise a lot of our photographs so that they fitted with the kind of educational themes that we want to push as part of all the stuff we do at this site. So whether our undergraduate, masters, you know, all of the face-to-face, plus all of the online things via FutureLearn, and also things like we're flagging it up in the documentary that's been broadcast. It's actually been broadcast again on Saturday about the site for, you know, kind of second screening purposes. So we've got this kind of Flickr site which reflects the MOOC hierarchy, but also at the same time kind of deliberately subverts it and allows kind of folksonomic links, allows you to do kind of thematic navigation of the content. And you could go from Flickr back to the FutureLearn site. So again, like, it's not rocket science, but it seems so successful. I'm really excited about a little museum and archives step that we've introduced. So each week we say, just go and look at these museums and archives online and search for these terms, right? And they're the terms that are relevant to that particular week. And, you know, feed back to us, comment back to us the stuff you find. So we're harvesting all of that content so that at the end of week 5 we can present, this is all the stuff you found. And then in week 6 we're going to encourage people to build that stuff together to form their own museum about the site. Again, it's going to be a much smaller subset of the overall number of learners, but there's a great deal of creativity on there already. And then the last thing that we're kind of exploring in that area is we're starting to use the hashtag #BuildYourOwnPortus, and we're starting over the coming weeks, or the remaining 3 weeks, to get people thinking about ways in which they can create tangible as well as digital representations of the site. Right? Because the key thing is Portus is a massive place. It looks very different from the harbour that it used to be. There's a lot of water missing for a start. And so people find it difficult to navigate around. It wasn't helped by the fact that we had a mistake on one of the maps So that made a bit of a nightmare, but I think we've fixed that now. But it's quite hard to navigate, and one great way of finding your way around a place is obviously to build a representation of it and to think through the kind of the spatial and temporal dynamics that way. So via experts like Grant, and we're hoping also colleagues at 7 Reasons, and Matt Tyler-Jones, who's a PhD student at Southampton, also works for the National Trust, how we can use this kind of expertise to kind of prompt creative endeavours. So I'm desperate that there's going to be sandcastle Portus photographs. That would just make my day if we get some sandcastle navigation videos of this is actually where Building 5 was. This is how big it was in, I don't know, sandcastle terms. That would be cool. Turns out, by the way, that if you want to build Building 5, this is Building 5. This is obviously a little Lego man, or man, woman, and in this case, there are some very specific reference measurements that you can use to cross-reference Lego to the real world. Turns out that if you want to build Building 5, which is the ship sheds at Portus, it turns out that you need a lot of bricks, like a massive number of bricks. If Lego are watching, we need a massive number of bricks. But just doing this, it's a stupid thing, but I've been working there for, 15 years? I nicked my son's Lego, made a model of the first corner of the ship shed and thought, it's massive. It's massive. How on earth do you kind of bring all of that material? What are the logistics involved in creating this edifice and using it? Right, so what I'm hoping is that other people will feel the same way. And we'll see what happens. But it's not a core part of the course, so it doesn't matter if it goes wrong, it doesn't matter if no one does it. It'd be nice if they did. All right, last bit. So yeah, I've just got time. I'm not good at stats. Anyone who knows me will know that I'm not good at stats. But what I had a quick go because I was interested in the comment data that we have. And this evening, if I have time, I'm going to post on the course blog a summary of all of these stats and also a piece about big data analytics and the Future Learn platform and all other MOOC platforms. Because I think it's really important that the learners understand the ways in which their behaviour and their comments could be being used, I think, as a force for good, but I think it's really important that we're expressing this. So first thing, it's a caveat, it's quick and dirty, and I'm rubbish at it. It needs lots of work and loads of stuff in terms of normalisation. This is only the comment data, right? So this is the data that I'm provided by Future Learn. So every day I can download all of the comments. It's not including any of the analytical data that's captured by Future Learn. I don't know what the analytical data is. And my focus on doing this is because I want to try and get better feedback, and all the data are anonymised. I will pick out one example where I think I know who it is, but it'll be obvious. Comments overall, so this is a sample of 10,000 of our comments. Most people don't post many. A small number of people post loads. That's not a big surprise. By week, we got the fall off. I mean, I generated these stats early on in this week. You've got a fall off, but we'll be interested to see how that changes. In terms of learner behaviour, there are loads of fascinating things you could go into. So how likely are they to produce comments? How many of their own posts are liked? So kind of what role are they playing within the network? And of course, we'll be performing network analyses on the underlying data. The relationship between educators and learners would be lovely were the data not anonymised. Yeah, so to what extent are we successfully, supporting the learning within this community? So that's all stuff around the learners. One metric you could do would be something like this. So it's kind of a scaled representation of people who make loads of comments and make loads of comments to a lot of different people. Yeah, so another way of expressing that is here. The people in this, I think, are me and the other educators. I'm pretty certain that actually is the aggregated educator account, which is the three of us who are named as the educators. So this is making loads of responses to loads of people. Yeah, so it's not just comments, it's responding to other people's comments. And then you've got people who make loads of responses to a small network, people who don't make very many responses. So that kind of stuff I think is interesting. And then the percentage of people who are responding as a matter of course, as opposed to making just general comments. Other interesting stuff. Regular versus clustered commenting. So are people commenting across the board, or are they finding particular topics really, really fascinating and investing loads of time in those? Do particular steps encourage more comments? Well, yeah, there's that one, which is amazing. That was where we said at the very beginning of the course, imagine you're arriving at Portus. Right, so we know roughly the kind of level of expertise of all the people at that point, and we're just getting them to express essentially what their previous knowledge of the port is and how they've, what they think about the data we've provided. Later in the course, we're going to get them to revisit those reconstructions and see how their impression has changed. I'm nearly there now. And then also, do these steps encourage more discussion? So those steps where you've got discussion back and forth, what are those steps where you get the most of that kind of thing? So what is it we can do to encourage more of that kind of interaction? And yeah, there's loads of other stuff, we could get those stats. In terms of NLP, we are doing small bits of it, and we're going to be doing a lot more as a way of trying to help people to identify emergent discussions. Final thoughts. Oh, maybe I could just leave the final thoughts. Final thoughts. I'm really fascinated by the chance to take this stuff and join it together with lots of other courses. Lots of other open educational resources, courses provided by different providers, so that you could chart this kind of journey. You're learning about the late 2nd century via us, you go to the Hadrian's Wall course, then you go to the Roman Architecture Coursera course. Right? And then around those, you wrap a layer of data so that you can pull relevant material into that learning experience. That's all the bits that people will argue about. I think that the MOOCs are, as I've said there, the greatest impetus to research-informed education that there has ever been. I appreciate all of the debates about unbundling and where that has come from, but I think the potential of this stuff is extraordinary for good. And that's it. There's some blog posts. Thank you very much.